and gentlemen, today I want to give my complete overview on Silver Palace so far. This game has far exceeded my expectations in the early beta, with of course some faults, but nonetheless still stunning, right? So let's get straight into it. I want to get, the more negative stuff out of the way, being the combat. The thing with the combat in this game is it's not necessarily bad, right? If this game weren't a gacha, the combat would make 10 times more sense and actually fit in. However, because of this game being a gacha, where you want to have smooth rotations, multiple characters on a single team, that simply isn't the case, right? So, that is to say, this game does not feel like a gacha, whether it be combat, story, or simply the way the game plays. For most, that's a good thing. However, once again, because they are 100% targeting it towards being a gacha, it does hurt the combat a little bit. So, the combat for sure needs some work. Enemy movesets are too easy, right? I did complain about parries, how intensive they are, how much of a role they play in this game's combat. However, it should also be mentioned that this isn't me calling the combat difficult, but more so tedious when it comes to all of these parries. The actual enemies that are currently in the game that you go up against are just way too easy. You learn their moveset incredibly fast, you adapt, and now you really don't even need to really try when it comes down to killing them. Of course, you're going to take slower or longer depending on your level of character investment. However, aside from that, if we're talking about like an actual, challenging enemy that is kind of pushing you to learn how to play the game better, the few enemies that we have in the current beta don't really fit that, right? The closest I can get, or you can get, I'd assume, are like the annoying flying enemies like the Harpy, which I did my combat showcase on a few days ago, because they can sometimes fly so high up in the air that they leave the camera, and so you need to actually predict your parries and predict when they are going to attack. But that's more so a camera issue, not really the enemy actually being all that challenging for the player, right? After this, I want to talk about the daily energy, right? So this game has the same system as a lot of other gacha games. You refresh 240 energy, I believe, daily or near daily. However, the one thing that this gacha does different, at least currently, right? If we go over here to the agenda section, they actually give you like the equivalent in HSR of Trailblaze power, right? From doing your dailies. So if we look over here, you get 2 of these stabilizers, which gives 60 more stamina in the dailies. So technically, your daily energy is significantly more than it looks. And then I believe there's another 2. Yeah, you get a total of 4 if you fully complete your dailies, which is an extra 240 energy. Once again, this could just be something in the current beta that doesn't go to live that they did so beta players could have progression faster. However, if that makes it to live, this means your daily energy is actually more so like 480 plus, which is really nice, right? That's a lot nicer than the other games. However, I will mention this game doesn't allow you to overcap your energy, right? So that small bit of QOL that a few other games have that we might be used to, that is not the case here. So you'll simply be stuck with the same energy for a long time, right? But nonetheless, really cool addition. I hope that continues to make it to live. Next, we have the mount system, right? As you guys can tell in the background, I'm using it right now. Everybody, as far as I'm aware, gets this horse for free, and he's really fun to use. I absolutely adore, I love this movement system. And on top of this horse can also drift, right? So when you are running low on stamina like I am right now, you can just drift like this, get all the stamina back, and give yourself a boost. The audio, effects, the SFX is really good here for the horse, especially the city and in most case scenarios. And on top of this horse can also fly, right? Let me find something along the way. But this horse can fly, which is one of the biggest things that we were able to see in the trailer originally, right? That a lot of people were hyped up for, was the fact that, whoa, we can actually fly across the city. And also, I believe you aren't prohibited from landing anywhere, right? Like, obviously I'm not supposed to land here, but I can land here, which is really nice. Now, the thing that may throw some people off, and it did throw me off personally, even though this game has a mount, it has flying, it has a mount that can drift around, it doesn't have a jump button, which is kind of confusing, right? The jump button actually summons the mount instead. I feel like this game could use a jump button, because there are a few case scenarios where you just get stuck on a ledge for no reason, and it's because you're not literally, like, you know, shoving yourself in front of it to go over it. So for that reason, I'd say this game could 100% use a jump button, right? It would feel a lot better, feel a lot more natural in the world. I know that's an entirely new set of animations that they have to add to the characters, and, you know, maybe they're too lazy to do it, but I'd imagine they're completely fine with it, considering the fact that this is just a CBT1, right? Take your time, optimize the small things that matter to the players, because there's going to be another CBT2, then they might even do an open beta test, and then it's after all of this where the game officially launches, which in all likelihood would be next year, right? I'd imagine the earliest they release this game is at the end of this year, but that's a stretch, right? It feels like they really want to perfect their craft, right? So that's that. This game kind of needs a jump button, and that is the mount system, which I absolutely love. Next, let's go into the limited character animations. Are they solid? They are good, right? They are for sure good. They are for sure solid. They aren't anything exceptional, but I think the thing people need to kind of get used to when it comes to a lot of these gacha games is when they're first starting out, their animations are usually underwhelming. And I have to say, out of all the gacha games I've played, like on, you know, very early levels of their life cycle, this game probably has the best animations for their starter characters, right? So for that reason, I'll say they have incredible promise when it comes to the animation department for characters. And then the 4 stars, they for sure have weaker animations, no doubt. However, there's still something, right? It's good enough for 4 stars, especially this early on in the game. I'm fine with them improving their craft the further on we go along. For example, I can actually show it right now because the 4 stars have ult up, right? Oh wait, no, I can't. Sorry, I'm not in combat. my bad. But they look cool. They aren't anything crazy, but they're good enough, right? When it comes to characters in the current CBT, there aren't really enough to go off of to talk about the value of 4 stars versus 5 stars. Because, like, for example, Cynthia, right? This is one of the 5 stars currently in the beta that you can exchange for. I originally thought she was a 4 star because I wasn't paying attention, but then I noticed she's a 5 star because someone pointed out to me in my chat, right? So Cynthia's kit actually allows Ignia, Fire, Red Shred, and Vulnerability on the enemy, right? Now, there's already a 4 star who can do Vulnerability. However, it seems like these 4 stars usually don't specialize in 2 types of buffing, which might be the common theme going forward, that 5 stars have like 2 types of buffing if they are a buffer, and obviously if they're a damage dealer they do significantly more damage, while 4 stars will specialize in 1 or 2 minor things, right? Argos, for example, the 4th slot on my team right here, can heal the party, and he can apply up to a max of, I believe, 10.5% vulnerability, though it's not the easiest thing in the world to actually inflict. When it comes to Cynthia, I believe she can inflict about 12% vulnerability, but then she can also inflict Red Shred for Ignia, which in this game is just the fire element, which is obviously a lot stronger. She's probably going to have some side of damage as well, if I had to guess, better than any 4-star support, which can contribute towards the overall team DPS more. So yeah, Obviously 5 stars are stronger than 4 stars. However, it's just too early to really give a full, thought out opinion with actual credibility in the game currently. The character roster is extremely limited in the CBT1. We can only make it past one chapter of the story, and we don't have many examples to go off of, right? But for now, I'd say the 4 stars are probably completely fine. I don't think this game will scale its end game off of having a full 5-star team until at least half a year into the game's lifespan. So everybody will be fine, right? After this, we've gone through almost everything that I really want to talk about. Let's talk about the UI, right? This is one of the best UIs of any game I've ever played. Like, I had zero issues understanding everything that goes here. Now, the only thing that was a little confusing at the very beginning was agenda, because you go to agenda not only for your dailies, but you also go here to see all the challenges as well, and the simulation. And these matter for farming for your character or weapon mats, and this matters for it's kind of similar to like Divergent Universe, right? But outside of this, everything is quite obvious. You have items, which is kind of your backpack. You have commissions, which are obviously quests. Partners, this is where you're able to change your team. Characters, you view your characters. This is the main events tab. The map, real estate, because yes, in this game, you can actually invest into some areas in the city, and I believe profit off it. Your city level of exploration, tutorial, evidence board, crystal exchange, which in the beta is for Cynthia, and sterling market, which is a currency you have that you can use to exchange for some lower level items, right? Silver crafts as well are like some type of gear, but I think in the current CBT, these aren't really being all that focused on, right? So it has one of the cleanest UIs of any gacha game I've ever seen. Big ups to Silver Palace for being able to accomplish that. Usually everybody has an issue with a gacha game's UI, whether in early release or closed beta tests. They absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one, in my opinion, which is really cool, right? Last but not least, last thing I'm going to talk about here is going to be the actual like intros and outros in this game, right? It is similar to like an intro outro system as WoWa, right? Well, actually, I'm not even sure if characters have outros, but they 100% have intros which you can build up. And from what I've noticed, it's rare, but there are a few character animations that can leave the character on field for like a second or two longer whilst switching to another character. So it is possible to like fine tune your team performance. However, it's a lot more of like untouched potential in the current closed beta test, and it's just so specific and only on a few moves of a few characters that I don't see the like ceiling of teams damage, from the sweats that commonly infest these gacha games. I don't see someone being able to really get all that much out of it, right? Once you understand the basic optimal rotation, any optimizations further probably wouldn't make an insane difference when it comes to your total DPS. So I'd say this game isn't like WoWa if you're looking for the combat and to have a extremely high skill ceiling that you can invest your time into, right? Because in WoWa, there are a shit ton of characters with a ton of quick swappable moves where they stay on field for like an extra second or two, which can allow a much higher level of DPS. I don't think that is going to apply this game, unfortunately, right? I know a lot of people are a lot of people are going to be asking about the gacha system. In this CBT, we do not have the gacha system. Okay, and this is likely a sign that they are still trying to cook up a gacha system that is most optimal for them, and they hope, and I hope, doesn't upset the player base. The only thing I'm gonna say is I've scrolled through Twitter a little bit. I saw it in my dreams while I was scrolling, and apparently someone actually found out or said that the banner might be the same as Wu was for the character banner, basically max 80 pity with a 50-50, and then the weapon banner might be a 75-25. So closer to HSR's system and ZZZ's system as compared to most other gacha games. However, there is no confirmation on that. It's not in the closed beta test, and once again, it's just something I saw in my dream scrolling through Twitter. Hope you all have a great day. Hope you all have a great night. Peace out.